All right, welcome to the Voncast Show, and today I got some very special guests with me that drove all the way from LA. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
WriteSteady.
Hello.
What's up?
Yes,
Yes. Go by Steady.
Steady. Okay. Oh, I just realized because you're Stephanie and you're Eddie.
That's
That's
right.
it.
And
I just
together,
realized
Steady.
it.
Yep.
So I was like, wonder what.
There you
Wow.
go.
Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, that's one question. So I was wondering, how'd you think you're Steady?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So before we start, we usually do an introduction.
Mhm.
I always do this. I'm always paranoid now.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
It's recording. Okay.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Okay.
was there a time before where you're doing it like, oh, I didn't record?
You know, it's never happened, but I'm always paranoid.
Just to
about
make
Oh,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah, it's good to
All
double
right.
check.
it. Yeah. Okay. So before we start, we do introductions. Can you give us an introduction of who you all are and what you do?
All right, cool. So,
Oh, I guess me
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
Yeah, sure. My name is Stephanie. I'm one half of Steady. I am also a community organizer. I'm also a graphic designer and web developer
Cool.
for my professional life.
mhm.
Eddie and I do spoken word through Steady.
Right.
As far as community organizing goes, I'm the chairperson of KmB Pro-People Youth, which is a grassroots Filipino-American organization based in historic Filipino town.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we're also co-founders of Sunday Jump, an open mic series in historic Filipino town.
Wow. That's how I
Yeah,
mentioned.
so a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap. So
Yeah.
with Stephanie, we co-founded along with Janice Pigo, their co-founder.
Yes.
Of Sunday Jump, open mic series in Filipino town. I was also previously the chair of KmB Pro-People Youth. Now I'm a community organizer of that organization. So with that organization, we fight for full equity for World War II veterans. We fight for ethnic studies, Filipinx studies, and also against gentrification in Filipino town. This is some examples of our campaigns.
Awesome.
And a little bit more about myself. Graduated recently from USC, got my master's in social work.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And right now in the job hunt and transition, exploring my options and seeing like what's out there.
Nice.
Also doing a lot more traveling now.
Cool.
Going back into arts, we do spoken word together, creative writing workshops, all that, social justice, discussion and dialogue.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll take it all the way back. Where did y'all grow up, and how was your childhood? I guess we'll start with.
Yeah, we have different stories. So.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do.
Feel free to leave as much out as you are, add as much as you like. You don't have to give. all the
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like growing up, I was born and raised in LA.
Okay.
When I was really young, we lived in LA. We
Uh-huh.
lived in the Rampart Village neighborhood of Los Angeles. Then as I got older, my family and I moved out to Pico Rivera, which is more like East LA area.
Right.
And growing up, I guess, usually when I talk about this, I usually talk about it in the context of like being Filipino.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can do that.
So I guess for me, growing up, I wasn't really in touch with my culture growing
Right.
up because I wasn't around a lot of other Filipinos. The only other Filipinos I was really around was maybe family or family friends.
Mhm.
But as far as peers, I didn't really have a lot of that. So growing up, I didn't have a lot of that growing up. But I think as I got older, I was able to get more in touch with my culture through, connecting with people in college and so forth. I don't know. If you have
That's
something,
cool.
and then we can go back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, because yours like LA story, and mine's like the Bay story.
I
I was
guess.
born and raised in the Bay Area, Union City. It's next to Hayward and Fremont and Newark.
Okay.
Usually when I say Union City, it's like, where's that from? I gotta like list all the
I
other
know,
cities.
yeah, that's
They
true.
still don't get it. Be like, okay, it's next to Oakland. Like, okay, you know Oakland. You know Golden State Warriors, yeah, like where they play at. Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I was born and raised there. Went to elementary school, high school. I want to talk a little bit more about my high school life because that was where I first got exposed to spoken word and social justice. I was very fortunate to go to James Logan High School.
Okay.
It has the only ethnic studies department in the nation at a high school level.
Really?
Yeah, right now, only. And so with the ethnic studies teachers, Ivan Santos, there's one time I went there with a couple of friends during like my sophomore year in high school. It's just during lunch. I go inside the classroom and I hear hip hop music bumping, and I'm like, oh wow, people here are chilling, just hanging out. And little did I know, it was playing like conscious music, but like Dead Prez, Immortal Technique, And the list goes on, and I was like, oh, you know, well, what is that? You know, what are you talking about? You know, you're talking about poverty. They're talking about police brutality, and you know, they have it in rap and hip hop format. And before then, you know, like I was listening to Tupac, you know, listening to Bone Thugs, but then I wasn't listening to like the underground music. You know what I mean? And so the teacher was like, hey, you know, I can actually make you some CDs. I'll bring you some CDs. Back in the day, you know, burn some CDs. Nowadays, like, what's your
Send it to
Spotify,
you,
or,
yeah.
or SoundCloud, you know, all that, yeah. Long story short, he made a couple of CDs, and I listened to it, and then, you know, explored different topics, and I listened to a spoken word track by Taylor Molly. And he had Taylor Molly, right?
Yeah.
Taylor Molly, yeah. And he had a piece called "What Teachers Make," and it was about how teachers aren't appreciated for the work that they do, and so what does it matter if they get paid low? Like what he makes that he'll make a child be inspired to pursue education, make a child realize their dreams, you know, so more so like that. And so like high school, so it really drove me to like get into spoken word and try to get back into my community, you know, like with the arts.
Yeah, because you had such a really different experience from me. Like when you're talking about high school, like I didn't have any of that. Like my high school was predominantly Latino and white. But even in my classes, because I was in like, you know, more like honors classes, they were mostly white. So you could see like where like my school was segregated in that way, like racially and economically, etc.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yours was not as diverse, but then mine was like I had like hella Filipinos, you know, hella Latino, hella Black, you know.
Yeah, one time we looked up like the diversity of our schools, because you can like look this stuff up at the time that we graduated. So that was in 2006, and like my chart is pretty much half white, half Latino, and his is like all these different like lines. Yeah, and like mine was like less than 2% Asian. I didn't have anyone around me really. Yeah.
You want to know how I know you're from the Bay?
How?
You say hella.
Well,
I caught that on. You say hella. Okay, that's hella cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if SoCal caught on to that, but I know like that's how people knew I was from the Bay. When I first moved here, it's hella. Oh, you're from the Bay. How? You say hella. I'm like, what else are you supposed to say?
Yeah,
when I first moved down here, when I first said like, oh, you know, that's hella dope. Oh, you say hello,
like,
okay.
yo, what's that?
Yeah. And then you gotta point it out and like ostracize me. Hey, wait a second, just the lingo.
So,
I'm just kidding.
So,
wow.
So 2006, your hyphy movement was big.
At the
Yeah,
time.
it was huge. Yeah, I used to have double, triple XL
me
kind
too.
of. Yeah, you too.
White
All
tee.
right. I have some
White
embarrassing
tees.
photos. Yeah.
Me
He
too.
does-
I'm not embarrassed. It's the childhood. Get the Vans on. They look like sneakers. You know, the pack.
Yeah.
Gigging, hyphy.
A lot of folks have like a baller haircut.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a fade. Like
That's
you
so
too,
different. Because oh my god,
How was it for you?
because I
Yeah,
went to
right.
school in like North Orange County, and it was mostly like rock influenced.
Right.
So a lot of like scene kids, that was like huge, like scene. So like those like haircuts that
Oh
are
my
like
gosh.
you know like that, and then like the dyed hair and the frayed hair and shit,
Mm-hmm.
and like the like tight ass pants and stuff. It was so different. Yeah. It's kind of cool though, because like where we were, like there were a lot of like local like bands that were around, and I don't know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's
like,
part of the
like
scene.
the different cultures.
Really
Like I wonder,
different.
like if we had met in
Really
high school, would we
different.
have become friends?
Yeah, I
or
don't
would we have gotten
know.
along? I don't
Really
know.
different.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention that. We're also married too.
Oh, yeah, we're married.
We are married. We been together.
Congratulations.
Yeah, married for 3 years. Been together for 11.
11 years, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Ay, nako.
Yeah, but it's wondering, like, we met in high school, we
When
have
we
gotten
got
along.
Right.
We grew up.
You
with
know, I'd
such
bring it up and
different-
you'd be like, nah, you'd never date me, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to
I feel
have
like
like a
we'd never-
mustache and it was not shaven at all, like it was just grown. Like I wouldn't cut it or anything, yeah, it was horrible.
Oh,
And I had a rat
got a
tail
rat
back then,
tail.
too.
Rats.
Yeah, rat tail back then.
I went through both phases actually. When I was younger, I did the hip hop thing, but over time,
Yeah.
in high school, I transitioned from that to like more scene. I had the long
Yeah,
hair.
scene.
I
Yeah.
wore girl jeans for 6 years because there's no such thing as skinny jeans.
Yeah.
That's
But
right. Yeah, I
just-
remember that. Yeah.
I just found it weird, like having this identity, like I dress like this, but I like this music. I like both music, and I think back then it wasn't as accepted. Maybe like a scene
Yeah.
kid, emo kid, or like you're in hip hop.
Right, I saw like categorized.
Categorized
right?
into things.
Compartmentalized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like I wasn't very in touch with my Filipino roots. Even though I was born in the Philippines, I came here when I was 7. I lived in predominantly white areas, or like Latino areas.
Yeah.
The first time I heard of what Armenian was when I came to Glendale to visit.
Oh yeah, there's a population over there.
Yeah.
But I got into I guess social justice and ethnic studies in college, so it was very new to me.
Oh yeah.
Was it for you also?
Yeah,
in
same
college?
for me. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I didn't really know about any of that.
Right.
Really, like back then, because I was surrounded mostly by white people, I try to sort of hide my Filipino-ness. Yeah. People were kind of racist. Like,
Really?
yeah. I tell the story like that. We had an Asian club at my school, and I was a part of it. Asian club because it was like 5 of us.
Put everyone together.
Yeah, we went and we had like yearbook photos, right? And like a bunch of people showed up, and they were like doing like peace signs and it was really bad. It was like, that's really racist. Yeah.
You know, at the time, I mean, obviously the eyes were racist back then.
Yeah.
But this wasn't too bad for me because that was a time when you would do this in photos. That was like 2006 to mid 2000s.
Right.
We would do this was standard, but now looking back, it's like that's.
I think in the context of what was going on,
back
they were trying
then
to be.
it was the Asian
They were
pose.
trying to be-
Asian pose like this.
Yeah.
You know, but now looking back, I see the pictures like, ooh, that's a little cringy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But similar, So like I didn't really start to get to be more proud of my heritage until college. I got involved with an organization at UCI called the Asian Pacific Student Association. It was like a much more like political organization where we learned a lot about things like oppression and the things that are affecting our communities as Asian Americans.
Did y'all parents instill did they instill like a sense of like, there was always that Pinoy pride quote, you see bumper stickers, tattoos, but like did they ever instill like, hey, we came from Philippines, this is like what our Filipino like community goes through, or are they just more like you just go to school, lose the accent, like you can talk to Tagalog at home, or how was it for you?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, growing up, my parents were always proud to be Filipino. I think it was more so that they thought that since we're here in America, that we would speak English.
Right.
I actually asked my mom that like later, like after I graduated from high school and I was in college. I was like, Mom, how come you didn't speak to me as much in Tagalog, or like really instill in me like the importance of retaining that language?
Yeah.
And my mom just said, "Oh, well, we're here in America. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing about shame or guilt or anything like that." That's where my parents were coming from. I know, like, other folks' stories are different, but that was where they were coming from. It was important for me to have a conversation with them too, for me to explain, I would love to like have retain my language, and now it's harder. The older you get, it's harder to retain. It's not never too late though. Like I have my Tagalog book at home that I want to brush off, get right back into it.
Out loud.
But I was fortunate in that way.
Yeah.
Do you speak any languages or understand?
When I was young, I understood Ilocano. So my family's Ilocano, so I understood a lot more when I was little. But I think similar to Eddie, as I got older, it just sort of like phased out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've never really had that conversation with my parents, but I think it's similar to you. It's like, well, you're getting older. We're in America, so it's just easier to speak English because that's what is all around us.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's just what happened. I don't think it had anything to do with shame or anything like that. They're, always, very proud to be Filipino as well.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, also another side of the coin, I guess, you can like look at it and see like, why do they think that it's like just okay to speak English, or like why do they just like keep on speaking English here in America, and look at the colonized mentality, if you want to like really delve into it, and where you come like from in the Philippines.
Exactly.
A conversation Steph and I once had, or actually you want to speak more about like the school that you saw?
Not me, but like my brother, he went to the Philippines. He went and visited again maybe about 2 years ago, and he was visiting some of the schools that were in the area, like the high schools and elementary schools, and they had signs up that said speak only English, only English allowed.
Right.
So I don't know if like maybe they don't feel, even though maybe our parents don't say they feel ashamed, it's just some of that ingrained like in their heads, like just speak English,
It's become normalized.
It's just normalized to them.
I mean, I think also too, maybe with, obviously there is that colonization mentality, but maybe from their perspective, those schools are like, well, we want these kids to be ready, if and when they come to America, they don't have the accent, they can assimilate, acculturate into society. Because when I came from the Philippines, I was stuck in the ESL class, and they realized this kid doesn't have an accent. He knows English.
Yeah.
Let's take him out of there.
Mhm.
I think that's part of it too. But also, I do recall from AAS that Philippines has a lot of Western presence in a sense where like we're the most, I think, Westernized of all the Asian countries, if I'm not mistaken.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
You know, because the World War II, we stayed and we were kind of sort of not cool with, but like we have a pretty good relationship for the most part with the U.S. just because most of the nurses here, they came from the Philippines. So, you know, there's that relationship there from what I recall from school. So I think like, you know, like the brown little brother of America in a sense.
No, like a brown brother, yeah. I mean, I would spin it and be like more like the bastard or like America, you know what I mean?
I get you.
You know, everyone's like the colony of the United States, Spain, you know, And earlier I was talking about the World War II veterans, you know, our Philippine American World War II veterans, still to this day, they don't have full equal rights.
Still not.
And due to, you know, their citizenship and where they're coming from, you know, like that's why they're denied compared to their American counterparts.
Right. That part, yes. But I just feel like in general, like we absorb so much of Western culture in the Philippines.
That's true.
You know, just, I mean, even all the, I don't know, I mean, I don't know if this is a result of American Western presence, but everyone you see on TFC do not look like they're Filipino at all.
They're so white
light
and
skin.
pale.
I don't know if that was because of Western influence or just because of colorism in Asia in general, because you see that also.
You see that there too. I would say probably a mix of both. A mix of both. Like, Philippines is very, you know, American influence. With Spain as
Beginning
well.
with Spain first. Spain first. Since about the 1500s, and then U.S. You know, around like what after 1899. To today. So we can go so in depth into that. You know,
I guess go to your local AS class. Take Asian American Studies or 100 or Asian American History or Filipino Experience. To learn more about that.
Google skin whitening soaps.
I saw that in the Philippines. I was mortified. But at the same time, it's like I suppose from people who use that point of view, it's a way to move up in society.
That's how they see it.
You know, like here it's not so prevalent, but there, you know, if you have lighter skin, you have a higher chance of getting a job. There are different positions that you would have that you wouldn't have if you had darker skin. So in a sense, I really can't like knock on it for that because like it's
I would say like I wouldn't knock on the individual.
Right.
It's like it's the system in place.
Growing up, did y'all think you'd be doing what you do now? Did you have any aspirations, like astronaut, firefighter?
Let's see.
Musician.
When I was in high school, I wanted to grow up and become an official PBA basketball player. So that's what I wanted to do. So I played a lot of street ball, you know, and then, you know, just get my cardio in. Obviously, it didn't happen. You know, I wish I could have grown taller than I am now. I'm only like 5'5", 5'6" on a good day. I wish I could reach like 6 foot. I mean, aside from that, though, like, in high school, I got involved in doing spoken word. I was talking about, like, my teacher, Ivan Santos, exposed me to, like, the music side of it. So I also wanted to, you know, MC and, you know, make my own hip-hop album and mixtape and all that, get into ciphers. And so I wanted to do that, like, for a living. And so when I went into college, the major that stood out to me was creative writing. So I was like, English, okay, let me go ahead and go into that. I mean, we'll probably go delve more into like college, but like throughout that time, I realized that I can do what I like to do, like creatively, not just as a major, but you know, just like what I do like outside. So then I switched my major to psychology and social behavior, and then criminology and law and society. Then I could like combine both of them. You know what I mean? Where you have like a verse talking about police brutality and like justice. For Mike Brown, justice for Fong Lee, you know, and the list goes on, and how I can put that into a creative format that relates to a lot of folks, because art is a universal language. So, I don't want to go too deep into that, but you know, it's like,
Me, when I was younger, I guess I was always like really into the arts actually. When I was in my elementary school, every year every classroom did a play, so I was always like actually really into like the stage and the theater and all that. I played the piano when I was younger.
Okay.
So I'm classically trained in the piano. I played from the time I was like 5 to the time I was 18. Yeah. So I actually thought about going into like majoring into music for a little while. I actually ended up going into film and media studies. So I majored in film and media studies and political science. I always thought it was interesting how through the media you could be political and share points of view about issues going on with your community, issues, and how that intersects with issues within the self. Yeah.
Interesting. I ask this with every Filipino guest I have on the show.
Yeah.
Were y'all ever pressured to become nurses?
Oh, yes.
No.
No?
I think
Yes,
I'm very
like
unique in that way.
Yeah.
You were pressured, yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're pressured, but
Like the
then
medical
I
field.
said no, and again,
And that was
fortunate
it.
enough,
Yeah.
my parents didn't push it any further.
Yeah.
They were respectful of it.
I think it was more of a suggestion. Like, would you like to do that? And
Yeah.
when I was like, oh, not really, it's like, okay, that's
Okay.
fine. But I think for us, we're like pretty unique in that way. Because usually when we talk to people, people say, no, their parents like push them into.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you gotta major in bio,
or medicine. You gotta go to medicine.
Yeah,
you gotta go to whatever.
If you don't do that, then you live. You get out of this house or whatever.
But yeah, that didn't happen with us. Like,
Yeah, so we're privileged in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I remember my dad always said like if a person is majoring or like studying something they don't want to do, they're never gonna succeed in it because they're not doing what they love. So
That's cool.
yeah.
I think for me it was never. I think I just kind of maybe psyched myself out of how. I mean, my dad knew that I made music, but I just kind of thought like, well, maybe I should do something safe. Something. Maybe if I major in bio, I'll get the approval of some sort. Oh, cool, bio. Okay, like. I don't know. Maybe I should have that conversation later on. Like if I told them, because I was all about the arts. I was into drawing. I was into music. I started rapping in 2001, 2002. But I felt like, I wasn't. No idea Asian American Studies was a major. Art was a major. I just thought, oh, okay, bio. Relatives are nurses. Just do this, do that. You get paid a bunch of money, but I hate blood. I hate needles.
Yeah.
Tattooing and getting a shot is totally different.
Yeah.
But I just felt like, I think it maybe subconsciously like maybe I should do this so I get their approval. But I didn't. I did bio, nutrition major, business marketing, all of it.
Oh yeah.
These are like jobs that you can get, good jobs. But I took a break for school and I realized maybe I should do something I like because I was failing these classes. I failed chemistry a bunch of times. Horrible at math.
Yeah.
Figured maybe I should do something I like. And so yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So all right, college. Where did you attend college?
Oh, I went to UCI, but that's where we met.
Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah.
Our
Awesome.
first year in college.
We met our first year. We lived in the same dorm our first year. That's how we met.
Yeah, so during welcome week, I believe you're already in the commons area, right? It's like downstairs, right? And then so I come down, walking down the stairs, and I'm wearing my Alaska PBA jersey.
Okay.
So just show everyone I'm hella Filipino.
You know what? I didn't know what PBA was.
Oh, I didn't
No,
know.
so it's like show everyone. I
was more like being like, okay, I can use this opportunity to talk about PBA.
Yeah, that's true.
I didn't even
Yeah, so I was walking through the commons area, and then Steph, she's sitting down against the wall, and so I sit
because
next.
we're about to have like a mixer.
Yeah,
or
like a
something
mixer
for
get
everyone.
together. And so I sit down next to her, and so the first question I asked, you would think it would be like, hey, like, what's your name, or whatever. The first question I asked her was like, hey, are you Filipino? So that was my conversation starter.
That's a good
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
That's a good starter.
Filipino,
That's a good starter.
yes, and then ask for the name later, yeah. And then ever since like that time, that's how we became friends.
Yeah.
Was it friends first or was it like
Friends
It
first.
was friends first.
For a solid year.
Yeah, for a year.
And then towards the end during finals, we got together.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was always romantic wise. I don't do too much. I was always kind of worried of like dating a close friends because like, oh, what would happen if it doesn't work out? I'm losing a friendship. So
there's risk involved.
But I would usually just end up like dating someone I don't know or I barely met. For that way, I was like, just in case something happens, my friendships circle does not get affected.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I hear that a lot of people who have been married or been together for a long time, they start as friends. So,
Yeah, I think it helped us.
Yeah, if you have that foundation
There's a
there,
foundation,
and we still see one another as like best friends.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I hear that a lot in engagement parties or like weddings where, oh, that's my best friend.
Yeah,
That's his
I
friend.
would say it's the same
That's
as us.
cool.
Yeah.
So was there a big Filipino population in UC Irvine? A lot of students? Or
Yeah.
There is, there is.
It's a big Asian community.
Yeah, it's
they
huge.
have like so many Filipino organizations there. They have an umbrella.
They have Umbrella, a Filipino
Yeah,
organization,
Filipino orgs. They have Alianza,
which is the main like umbrella, and then within that there's like Kababayan, there's Puso, Fusion, Pass, which are like depending on your major, that's like they have like these individual organizations.
Yeah, like Pass for like social
studies, I think.
Fusion's more
Is that science?
sciences.
Yeah. Kababayan was like the more like the big
more
one,
social. Yeah,
like the
more
big
social
one that
they have
everyone
there.
similar to FASA here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
Kababayan.
similar to FASA.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing though is that we were never involved.
Yeah, we
directly
weren't.
with those organizations.
No, we knew
It just
a lot.
never really clicked with
Yeah,
us.
it didn't.
Yeah. No shade on them.
No,
Right,
yeah, it just
yeah.
didn't work out.
I joined VSA here. I never joined
Oh, really?
Really? Oh.
Oh, interesting.
You were never a member of FASA?
FASA. Okay. I told all the FASA people here. I came, well, once again, this was in 2006.
Okay, yeah.
So coming, it's a lot different now.
Yeah.
There was a Filipino girl like asking, hey, are you, Filipino? Check out FASA.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, like I've never been part of a Filipino group before like
Right.
this.
Mm-hmm.
I went, and I'm not judging FASA for this, but it felt very cliquey,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like,
Yeah.
this is not. I anticipated more welcome,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, well, this is weird. I just kind of like left in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah,
I
you
don't feel
didn't feel
welcome.
the connection, right?
Yeah.
I think that happens. For some
That
reason.
happened to
us too,
to
yeah.
be honest. We
'Cause-
went there, not our first year, we went there our second
Second
year.
year.
And so we went with me like the first or second
First meeting. It was the
general
first meeting,
the
and
first
it
general meeting.
was huge. But like, they were in a lecture hall, like one of those gigantic lecture halls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it felt very cliquey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a member there who did her very best
To like help us.
Right.
But
But no one else really made the effort, and everyone was in their groups. So it was just like,
so after the end of the meeting, I'm just like, oh, it's cool, but it's all right.
Yeah.
And so we
That's
never
how it
got
felt for us,
involved.
too.
But then we got involved in different things. Like you got involved
With
with
APSA,
I
yeah.
got involved with Uncultivated Rabbits, which is a spoken word organization
Yeah.
there. And then indirectly, we did work with Kababayan.
Yeah, we would do
And,
collaborative
yeah.
events.
Like we did a hip hop showcase with
Yeah, we
Kababayan,
would do that
Uncultivated
stuff.
Rabbits, and then
Mhm.
APSA you do like
Same thing, yeah.
collabs.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. We have similar stories.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
After that, I was kind of put off by like Filipino organizations. Like, it was just what it was.
Yeah.
Because most of these kids, this is a commuter school system considered because there's surrounding cities, not
Yeah.
just
Right.
the cities based on the school. There's Panorama City, Van Nuys. The kids that were at the FASA meeting, they're high school friends, so like obviously like bond.
Okay,
Mm,
yeah.
mhm.
Mhm.
But for a while, I was kind of like, why would you want to join a Filipino group when you live with them all your life? So that kind of bothered me. I was like, what is in college about being spreading out?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
later on, I realized like learn culture, keep tradition,
Yeah.
Mhm.
having like solidarity. But
Right,
that took
Oh,
me a
yeah.
while. I was like super. I was like. I was proud to be whitewashed in a sense because I had majority of white friends. I went to a Vans Warped Tour.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
same
yeah.
thing, but, like, I was all about that. And like,
Mhm.
Filipino groups, like those are like your cousins and stuff. Like, why
Yeah.
hang out? But
Mm.
going to AAS, it really changed my mind. Saw like different perspectives and everything. But
Mhm.
all right, so we went through there. So how often did y'all change your majors? Was it off like a few times, just a couple times?
Oh,
Mm.
you wanna go for me?
Me? Oh, I think it was just once. I came in because I didn't know what I wanted to do really. I was considering English. I was considering business, economics,
Mm.
even environmental science at one point because I was into that when I was in high school. But I ended up film was always something I was interested in, and I ended up sticking with that. I ended up adding political science as I got older because my dad's a lawyer, so I was like, oh, maybe like law did interest me. So I was like, maybe it'll be something I want to do eventually. And it's something I still think about. I'm like, maybe I could still go to law school.
Education never stops.
Yeah, but yeah, that was it for me. It wasn't a lot of like switching around for me. Yeah.
And then for me myself, I mentioned earlier, I went into college focused on English, so English major. And throughout my first year, I loved the class. We were both like in hum core, which is like the writing course that everyone takes. And definitely helped me improve my writing. Then when I went into my second year, I started to branch out of like the regular classes that you're required to take. So I took like a psychology course, I took a sociology course, and I was more interested in those kind of courses. And so around that time, I talked to a counselor and talked about like, my possibilities, see what else I can like dive into, what kind of careers I could get into, wanting to be a psychologist and roles similar to that. And so I just ultimately decided during my second year that I would switch to psychology and social behavior. Yeah, because I like talking to people, I like seeing how people interact, I like the community aspect of it as well too. And then from there, I double majored in criminology, and the reason why is not only I'm interested in like how law like affects the people, but also because a lot of the classes overlap with psychology. So I was like, be quick to like go ahead and just get that double major in, so I'll go ahead and I'm gonna get that in. I'm gonna get that in, yeah. I mean, you double majored too, but you had to take
They were in separate
classes.
schools,
Yeah.
so I had two separate like tracks of like requirements. So
Yeah.
So, no ethnic studies majors? You guys are
No,
y'all are not?
No.
I would have thought y'all were ethnic studies
No,
majors.
Yeah.
I mean,
what y'all do.
I mean,
there were elements of that in my classes.
Right.
Like I know one of the film classes I took was about. It was called like. Well, the professor, she wrote this book about like the third eye in cinema, and it was all about like non-white cinema, so like international POC based cinema. So I thought that was a really cool class. There was a lot of feminist theory also intertwined with a lot of my classes. So there were elements of that because it was a lot of film studies. So studying like seeing how film is also like a reflection of society, and so there were intersections with that. But I don't know if you had anything like that.
I mean, for me, I would have to trace it back to high school because I was able to take Filipino heritage studies.
Oh yeah,
in
that's right.
high school. So that's where I got my foundation about ethnic studies and what does it mean to be Filipino and American and the hyphenated identity. Who is Larry Itliong? How about the World War II veterans? Who is Philip Vera Cruz? Who is Andres Bonifacio? Like all that history, right? So I got a lot of that in high school. Very, very thankful, for the educators for instilling that program there.
Yeah, interesting, because like I just remember like at my school, even though I said it was very like segregated and all that, there was one class my freshman year in high school that I took because I was in this program called Heritage, and it was like a California history class, and that's where I learned about things like Chinese exclusion and like the farm workers and the grape strikes and all that, and even the indigenous peoples like in that class. But we didn't have like a department or anything.
Yeah,
like
but that was interesting to you too,
it
right?
was really interesting.
Like that's why we feel like as educators now, as organizers, why it's important to have ethnic studies at that high school level.
Yeah, it is. It sparks something. We're like, oh, you're learning about something that's not just what's in mainstream history.
Right.
Right.
So cool.
Ethnic studies should be required.
It should be
not
required.
an elective.
Isn't it required in high schools now? I thought there was.
Oh, I think
Well,
there's
recently passed it,
recently.
right? In LUSD, I believe, right? It's like passed for the F requirement.
I'm not sure.
Yes, or just like A through G, and then one of them.
Oh, I
you're
see.
able
To get into college,
Yeah, that is true. So there is that movement. Yeah, there has been progress since then, but back in our day, it was.
No, it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's true when we were younger. So
Yeah, because we graduated 2006 from high school.
Yeah. So, but it'd be good to see how far they can take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because there is some. I guess what attracted me to AAS was I was learning history that pertained to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure. I guess in history class we learned about World War II. They mentioned something about Philippines. Oh, cool, Philippines.
Yeah.
But here in ethnic studies, primarily Asian American studies, you learn more about the Filipino experience coming here. All the Southeast Asian, East Asian, Japanese, how they came here, why they came here. So I thought, wow, this is our history, my history in a sense. I mean, not necessarily my history, but my ancestors. Very fascinating. I felt included.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
for sure. And I think it goes back to that no history, no self, right? When you learn more about your history, your ancestors' history, you learn more about yourself too, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
yeah.
I definitely feel more connected.
Yeah. feel recognized,
Yeah.
seen, and seen.
Empowered.
Yeah.
Oh, I am not invisible.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So going from college, how did y'all end up having a relationship with the historic Filipino town and also being community organizers? How did that happen?
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So I guess so. Eddie mentioned earlier a club that we were in at UCI called Uncultivated Rabbits.
Rabbits.
So I was part of that organization as well, and we often would partner with not just with organizations on campus, but with organizations outside of campus, and we'd go and perform at events. And one organization that contacted us was KmB Pro-People Youth, which is based in LA, in historic Filipino town. So we started learning when we first got connected with them. We stayed on their mailing list, and when we graduated from college, we were still getting their emails, and we're like, hey, you know, they're putting on a cool event. They're bringing down the son of Larry Itliong to come speak. We're like, oh, that's
Johnny
really
Itliong.
Johnny Itliong.
Yeah.
So we thought that was really cool. We ended up going to that event, ended up going to a general meeting, and just joined the organization. And that's really just like this sort of splash. We sort of splashed into community organizing.
And it just
there.
came at the right time too, because right out of college, we wanted to get into like our spoken word grind. Like we were in a spoken word collective with two other poets, Mark Mazda and Susan Diep. And so with us four, we went by forward.
Yeah, we were like
for the
a
word
group.
and forward,
Wow.
you know, all that.
Yeah.
But we would like go to like open mics in Orange County, LA. We're doing the whole grind. And we went to Summit, API Spoken Word Poetry Summit, and that was in
2009.
first one 2009,
And then
later in 2011. So focus on 2011. When we went to there, we attended a workshop by Michelle Myers of Yellow Rage, and that workshop was about, is writing poetry enough? And so when I went there, and I was in that workshop, and I was like, you know, I'm doing poems, but what else could I do more like for the community? You know, like is just writing a poem, trying to inspire someone, is that gonna change the world? Is that gonna like change the system? You know, or small steps? What more can I do? And so to connect with Steph's story, so after attending that workshop, we both came back and we wanted to get involved, and luckily we got that email from KmB.
Yeah,
and then it just came at the
we were
right
inspired
time.
to
We
get
went there.
involved.
Yeah, and been involved ever since 2012.
Yeah.
2011, the official members 2012.
2012, yeah.
So is it KmB
People
Youth,
What is that organization about?
So it's a progressive Filipino-American youth organization. We do a lot of educational workshops. We do a lot of direct action in the streets. But really the goal is to encourage the next generation to analyze, organize, and mobilize in response to issues that affect their local communities, that affect people in the Philippines and across the world as well. Yeah.
We work with a lot of students, a lot of college students, especially for our JFAV campaign, JFAV Justice for Filipino American Veterans. So every year we organize a march and rally, whether it be in Filipino town, downtown LA, or Hollywood. Now it's going to switch venues, but it's a way for us to continue that fight for the veterans, because every year it gets less and less and less.
So I guess we can go into that. What is the issue? So for the background, for those who don't know, Filipinos helped fight in World War II.
Yes.
But they're unable to get their citizenship, or what's the issue?
Essentially what happened was during World War II, the Philippines was still it was under Japanese occupation, but it was also still one of the American, it was still like people who were Filipino were still considered American nationals at that time. So as a result, a lot of people were either drafted or volunteered to join the United States Army. And so as a result of joining the Army, they were promised full military benefits as the same as American citizens. But when the war was over, the president passed what is called the Rescission Act, that basically said that all of the service that Filipinos showed during World War II would not be recognized by the United States.
Yeah, so they were not fully recognized. I mean, there's been progress over the years where they're now able to be buried with the American flag, and a couple of other benefits, but it's still not full equity. And so the equity right now that we're mostly aiming for right now is for them to receive a pension, so that could help with cost of living here in LA and whatnot, and hopefully help with the also reunification process.
Yeah, because a lot of the veterans who are living here in LA for example, specifically LA, just because we work mostly with LA, but they have family in the Philippines and they haven't seen them for years, and they just don't have, because they're not getting benefits, because they're not getting the same opportunities as other veterans, they don't get things like the pension, that don't allow them to have the money to reunify with their children, for example. Some of them haven't seen their children in like 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's estimated about maybe 10,000, 15,000 veterans left, and they're passing away at a rate of 10 per day.
Yeah.
So
time
is not on our side. That's why it's important for us to get like the
keep it
youth
going,
involved. You know, it's like well, before it was their grandfather, now it's like their great grandfather. And keep it going. But to know that we'll never stop fighting.
It's good. Y'all watch Naruto?
She watches it more than me, but yeah.
That reminded me of the little fire passing it down to the next generation. Yeah.
For sure. Yes.
Yes.
And how I met Eddie was through Alan's class. I think it was a writing workshop, and you were there. And you talked about the Sunday Jump. Prior to that, no idea what that was. It sounds cool. Can you give us a story of what is Sunday Jump, how it started?
Sure.
I assume y'all are the founders.
Two of
the founders.
So Sunday Jump is a community open mic series located in historic Filipino town. It was founded in October 25th, 2012. Damn it, I got it wrong. 25th is the birthday of Larry Leon.
That's why.
So 28th.
I only remember 28th because that's my mom's birthday.
There you go.
That's why I remember it.
And so what happened is that Janice Apiga, the third co-founder, she was around Filipino town checking out spots, and she went to Travel Cafe, which is a Filipino-owned business, and there was a posting asking if anyone would like to host an open mic, and she herself is a poet. And she already knew us being poets as well too. So she answered the call, hit us up, like, hey, do you want to run an open mic series? And we're like, there aren't any Filipino-founded open mic series in historic Filipino town. And so we were like, yeah, sure, let's go ahead, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Like a hard yes. And so we went and just started to organize together, and the first meeting was on October 28th, 2012.
Where we officially met and started thinking about, what are we going to call it? What are we going to do? How are we going to
it's called Sunday Jump. We had other names like Sunday Masses, like just to play off of Sunday, and I guess our Catholic Christian upbringing, but
like masses. But
masses
masses, like the people.
It used to be the Sunday Jump too, but we dropped the, just kept it Sunday Jump,
How did the name Sunday Jump, what's the significance behind Sunday Jump?
Well, Sunday, because it's on a Sunday. And then Jump, it came about because we wanted something that was
like uplifting
and catchy, and like movement. Right? Like this is a place where you go, you get hyped, you can spit a poem, you can do whatever. And I just stuck with Sunday Jump.
Sounds like a gang initiation.
I know.
Getting jumped. Well, you're jumping on a Sunday.
Okay.
Or jumping in on a Sunday.
You're jumping on a Sunday. That sounds like Sunday Jump. That's what my head is like first thought. Like, Sunday Jump, huh?
Well, we have only 2 rules for you to join, all right? Or 2 community guidelines.
Oh, right. What are guidelines?
So it's express, not impress.
Right.
Free speech, not hate speech.
Okay.
So express, not impress. So it's not about the snaps and claps. It's about sharing the love of your heart. And then
free speech, not hate speech, is about we're not about putting each other down.
Right.
We're about uplifting our community.
I like that. Yeah, those are great rules.
Yeah, and so we put that up just to reflect the work that we've been doing as artists and as activists, and then also adjusting to the open mic community that would come to our space. Because we had some folks would come by and they would say some problematic shit.
Problematic stuff.
It's like, it's not to shit on comedians, but I love comedians, what I mean? Yeah. But there's a certain craft to it, you know what I mean? And some of these comedians just say things just to
cause a shock,
shock value.
Just to shock people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into
so
this,
then
but
from that we had to recover and think what are some guides we can have just to help guide some folks, what kind of material to present, better perfect.
I feel that communities in particular are having a difficult time, not all of them, but in general, it seems like mainly male comedians are having a difficult time adjusting to the current times of being PC, which is fine, politically correct is great.
Yeah.
It's just, people, where does one draw the line? I guess when you offend. I feel like you can be funny without having to offend. You can like make fun of your own experiences.
Yeah.
When you single out a group.
Yeah. Totally.
But I think it's weird because like we can make Filipino jokes all day. It's funny. It's just when someone who's not Filipino make jokes, then it's kind of like.
Yeah, I think it comes from that like, well, you don't have that experience, you don't know where we're coming from.
Right.
And it goes to that like, the stay in your lane kind of idea.
Like, I mean, African American comedians, they can, their jokes are well received in the African American crowd because of they relate to.
Yeah, their shared experience.
But it's just when someone who's not of, when you talk about, I guess like, when you're not of that ethnicity or culture, and then you talk about a different ethnicity or culture, it's seen like.
I mean, it's going back to what you said. Like, it's about having a story to it, right? And like in layers to it. Like, it's not just about other folks speaking about like other cultures. It could also be some that are speaking about themselves, but the punchline is just the stereotype, and that's it. There's like no layer to it.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember one time there's a comedian who came by, and all he talked about was like, "Yeah, we're bad drivers, right?"
And he was Asian, but it was like.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's no nuance to it. There's
So where's the story? You know what I mean? Like you could say, maybe you could say, but you gotta craft it. You know what I mean?
There's
Yeah.
gotta be
Going back to that
something
shock
more
value, it's just shock value, but like
Yeah.
adds more to it.
There's that one Asian American female. She's a comedian. She's Korean, I believe.
Mhm.
She just does not like Asian culture. She like talks down about it.
Oh.
But I think she said she had like a very rough upbringing, physically abused by parents. So
I see. Yeah.
but
see, it goes back to like the story.
Right,
You know,
right.
your story, your experience.
Yeah.
You know, really make it like your
Comes down
own
to that,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
so I can say like, I'm not good at math because the Asian stereotype, Like,
Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, also like while we have these community guidelines, they are guidelines, and sometimes like we draw a line, or other times we let the person express, and then we maybe do some dialogue after, or I build. I feel myself like if I feel that they cross the line too much or whatnot, then I'll go and touch base with them later, and see like how are things, okay? Because sometimes our audience will react too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they'll snap, but then something that's problematic, they'll could like boo or things like that.
Right.
It's not like the Apollo or anything.
Right.
But there is that two-way street.
Right.
And so by saying that we're community guidelines, that we want to create a safe, open space for folks, to express poetry, comedy, magic. We have a resident DJ. We have the cipher. You were in the cipher last time, I remember.
Yeah.
And I think not just to express, but to experience in a safe space as well.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
I've been to a handful of open mics. I can say I felt very safe and very I love the crowd. The mics at Sunday Jump. It's unfortunate that I don't have a car and it's all the way in LA.
Oh, no worries.
yeah.
No worries.
But I always get the invitation like, I want to go, but I have work. But I enjoyed my experience there, and I wish I'd had more time time to go.
Yeah.
But okay, Sunday Jump. So it's open mic has been going on for, if I do my math right, 6 years.
Yeah. We're in our 6th year now.
6 years. Yeah. Every first Sunday.
Yep.
So historic Filipino town. I remember y'all talked about it during the I think you had people talking about gentrification.
Right.
I've seen Eagle Rock. My mom lived in Eagle Rock for years.
Yeah.
She came there in I think 98.
Okay. Yeah.
And Eagle Rock in 98 is not the same now.
Oh, yes.
You could not walk down Colorado Boulevard like you can now. Gentrification. So I don't know the exact term. What's is there a dictionary term of gentrification or one that you're familiar with?
Well, for my definition of gentrification is that when it's about displacement, it's about the displacement of the people.
Right.
And the gentrification, the anti-gentrification work that we do, we are focusing on not having, because with displacement, what happens is that low-income, working class, families of color
who live there for years.
Often get pushed out.
Live there,
And it's usually under the guise of improving the neighborhood.
Say that it is for
words.
development,
Right.
but it's displacement.
I totally agree because it's sad when you have tenants who live there for years, who grew up there, and they're getting displaced because wealthier people could I'll tell them, hey, I can pay what they're paying double.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? Because in certain areas like Eagle Rock, there isn't as much of a gang culture there, which is good. It's safer, but it's like, yeah, you made it safer, but in a sense, when you push out like that community, not the gang community, but just like when you push out people, like it loses the culture there.
Right.
You know, so it's like one can say playing devil's advocate. Well, there's a give and take. Well, you take out the violence, possibly the drugs in the area, but at the same time, you lose that community. Not that is the community, but when you displace people who live there for years, who may be lower income or local businesses, mom and pop shops.
Right.
You know, like there's that give and take.
Yeah, because it's like, you know, improvements to the community don't just have to be physical vanity things. Improvement to the community could mean more social services for people, you know?
Programs, youth programs.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the kinds of improvements that people want to see. If you want to talk about improving violence, if you want to talk about making it safer, like have programs for people to come to so that they're not doing things that lead to violence and harmful behaviors.
And then also another problem with gentrification is that what happens in that process is that the community input is not there. Like they're excluded from the entire conversation. Like just the next thing you know is like, oh, right down Temple Street, you see a luxury building being put up, and then 1-bedroom apartments like 2,000 or even higher plus. You know. And so that's what we try to do, like in KmB, is to have that conversation where we help start a coalition. Right. We were part of a coalition called the Coalition to Defend Westlake. So it was formed in response to basically what was happening was the city was trying to put in place this ordinance that would change the entire look of the main streets in historic Filipino town, and no one knew about it. It's just like if you were a business, you had to change your signs. No matter how much it cost, you would have to change it.
Change your sign. There were certain types of businesses that weren't allowed.
Right. So if counseling services weren't allowed.
Things like that. Counseling, health services, rehab clinics were not allowed. But what was okay were things like dog boutiques and you know what I mean? Like,
and this was put forth by the city.
Yeah.
You know?
How is that
so we had to do a
neighborhoods?
community forum.
How was that? Yeah.
Back in, and luckily right now it's on a hiatus. Thanks to the work of the community.
I just don't understand it because what LA or Los Angeles is known for is diversity. You have Tokyo Town, you have Thai Town, Little Armenia, historic Filipino town. I just don't get like why are you trying to westernize it even more? You know, I just that's what's so valuable at Los Angeles. This is what it's known for, the diversity. It's interesting the city would kind of go against that. My next question too is how do y'all approach slowing down or stopping gentrification, because it seems like it's a very difficult task.
It's hard.
It is hard.
And a lot of it time what makes it hard is like it's very like in reaction to what the city's doing. So it's hard to, it's just so big, right? So in a way, like you can't stop development, right? But you can find ways to influence, work with maybe developers. I know some of the ways that you can like work with them is like maybe if they're putting up an apartment, maybe they can find a way to build a community center as part of that apartment, or things like that.
That's a trade-off or whatnot.
Find a way, like the smallest things that you can do to either delay a development or work with them can help.
And then also folks who are interested in getting involved in their own campaign, their own city, is to help not make yourself feel overwhelmed, is know that you're not alone. You know, there are other folks, who may be aligned with you. Like with us as KmB, like we didn't do the coalition alone. We're doing it with the LA Tennis Union. We have support from PwC, Filipino Worker Center, and
neighborhood councils.
So I noticed when I attended summer activist training in 2016, PwC has an apartment complexes, but it's for lower income.
It's lower income.
I was surprised. I was amazed. They're nice.
They're really nice. They're very
nice.
I was
young village.
I was very impressed by that. I was like, wow, there's a community center in the front.
Exactly.
Back or at the top, it's apartments for low income, and that was awesome for me. That was really cool.
Right, now they have like a space that's open. That's where we have Sunday Jump today. At the Little Work Center, right? And Papalonia Road.
That's where we all slept.
Oh yeah, that's right, for summer activist training.
Oh yeah.
That's where we all slept, so I'm very familiar with that room. You know what's interesting? I keep in touch with like almost everyone still.
Oh, that's great.
That's
You know, something about those few days, I forget how many days, but
Yeah, like a couple days, right?
You learn a lot about the community.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, the name sounds deceiving. Summer activist training. It for me, like my parents, like, well, is this some like extremist left? You know, but like, no, actually, like we learn about community. You know, because there is that stereotype that why would Asians need help in the community? They're all smart.
I know,
they're
the
all,
stereotype, right?
The
all
minority.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
I had to tell them, like, you know, not all Asians are like East Asians or Filipino or Japanese. There's a lot of Southeast Asians that came from Vietnam, came from war-torn countries, and you know their conditions, their upbringing is a lot different.
Yeah.
So there are those different, just different issues, different obstacles they face.
Oh, for sure.
So they were like, well, we didn't know that. I'm like,
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't know that. Oh, okay. You know, so I learned a lot. You know, went to Thaistown, CDC.
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember we went to Chinatown and we learned about the gentrification.
Oh yeah, over in Chinatown too.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's starting there too. You know, it's sad. You know, like
Yeah.
this is like the last bastion of like, you know, your community authentic Chinese. You know, no Pan Express or nothing. You have change. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is where you go. You know, like, I love seeing, you know, signs that are not of English.
Yeah.
You know, being in the area, it's just it's nice. I mean, sure, I may not understand much, but appreciate.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Let's see. Anything else you'd like to talk about? Anything else? Any current events that you'd like to talk about? This will come out in like a couple weeks.
A couple
Oh, yeah,
weeks.
for sure.
Well, just some logistics about Sunday Jumps.
Yeah.
Every first Sunday of the month from 5 to 7 p.m. at Filipino Workers Center in historic Filipino town.
Yes.
If you don't know where it's at, that's Echo Park area, downtown.
Is that what it is?
LA.
Echo Park?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Echo
Echo
Park.
Park,
Yes.
yeah.
And we have an open mic. Mic signups are 4:45, 4 minutes max. Get you on the list. Come
Right.
talk to me. I'm one of the hosts there with Janelle Paulay. And we'll get you on. And just remember our guidelines: express, not impress, and free speech, not hate speech.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else? I guess for KmB, we're always looking for new members. We have a couple of really cool events coming up, one of which is our cultural pilgrimage that we do every year. This year we're going up to Soma, Filipinas in San Francisco, and we're going to be seeing some of the sites there.
Never heard of that.
No,
What is
yeah,
that?
it's a neighborhood
yeah.
in San Francisco.
Like,
They recently, Soma, so south of Market.
South of Market.
that's what it means.
Yeah, so they recently sort of renamed it to Soma Filipinas to reflect the history of Filipinos that lived in the area. There's a lot of community centers there, parks, murals. There's like streets named after like Bonifacio, Rizal. It's pretty cool. So we're gonna go up there, check it out, learn the history.
So the last weekend of August.
Last weekend of August, we're gonna be doing that. So.
Speaking of San
Yeah.
Francisco, I remember I went for an Asian Am class.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco, Berkeley for a conference panel.
Nice.
We visited SF State. So jealous of their
Oh, I know. There's
cultural
SF State.
center. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, this is.
You know, I almost went there for
Almost
college.
did.
That was my dream. Yeah. But also at the same time, when I visited UC Irvine and me wanting to start a new beginning, and I fell in love with the Ring Road and
Our
the
campus.
Aldrich Park that we have
Stephanie
there. Something was calling me there. Yeah. So yeah, I went to UC Irvine, but almost SF State. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have some friends that went to SF
It's,
State.
yeah, there are centers.
Oh
Like,
my
Yeah,
God.
it's
so
like
awesome
the-
there.
Yeah.
The solidarity, I'm like, wow, there's a bunch of Filipinos here. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch here, but I also wanted to get our Bay Area to start a new.
Oh, same
chapter.
thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, you know, some like their resources, their funding, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you talk about ethnic studies, it's strong. over
It's
there.
strong.
So
Yeah,
strong.
SF
That's where it started.
Yeah.
Third,
yeah.
was it the third?
It's like the
strike
flagship,
movement?
the third
World
Trade.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Third World Trade.
Wow. And it was a little breathtaking because I read about it in books, and to be standing there, I'm like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's really cool.
all right, I think that about wraps it up. Under an hour,
Oh,
2
okay.
minutes. All right, so where can we find Sunday Jump, Steady, and all that? Where can we find that on social media?
Okay.
Any other like websites or places you want to shout out?
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
So social media, I guess like to cover the bases.
Yeah. good.
Sunday Jump, you can find us at The Sunday Jump. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. On YouTube, you can find videos of open micers and featured performances. So that's
You
pretty
might
cool there.
see Vaughn there.
No, I don't think it was up there. Freestyles
Well,
a little vulgar.
We'll come out again. We'll
I
record
apologize.
you.
I said something that I think that kind of like shocked the crowd. I don't want to repeat this, but I
Well,
was
then
like,
maybe
oh.
in the future, not sure when you put this out, but maybe in the
Yeah, maybe in the
future,
future.
yeah, check out the
Yeah.
YouTube.
So that's
Maybe you'll
Sunday
see
Jump.
one of
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as our community organization, Pro-People Youth, you can check us at our website, ProPeopleYouth.com, on Instagram, KmB_LA, and then for Steady.
And then for Steady, so we didn't speak too much about like the work
Yeah,
that
what
we
is-
do, like
what
with
does
Steady
Steady
and
do?
spoken word.
I see
Oh,
a bunch
we
of
can
cool
talk about
vlogs.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we also do vlogs.
I see
we
Italy trips, Mexico trips.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
a lot of traveling this summer.
The summer has
Okay.
The
been.
theme is self-care.
Okay.
Self-care, you know, oxygen mask first before helping other folks. You know, you gotta have that on. And
Yeah.
then like help other folks. That's what I would.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
I heard
Yeah.
about you can't
Well, I got that from Lady Bosco. Just shout out Lady Bosco.
you can't like pour into someone's cup if you have nothing in your pot or something.
Oh,
Yeah.
You can't help others if you can't help yourself, kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, we're doing a lot of traveling. So
see it, man. I see it, bro.
if you
Damn.
see it, check it out on our social media. It's at WriteSteady. Like when you like
Write like you're writing a poem, and steady like you're going
steady. Yeah.
Yep.
And then yeah, we do spoken word performances. We do
Writing
educational
workshops.
Our work focuses on identity, our culture, family with a social justice lens. You go ahead and contact us through WriteSteady or WriteSteady.com.
Yeah.
And
Find us there.
yeah, just stay
One
connected.
last thing. I didn't mean to ask this.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the term social justice gets like such a bad rap? Social justice warrior. It's like a stereotype amongst like in the internet community.
Yeah.
I think. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because a lot of people are afraid of change.
Right.
I think people are used to the status quo and are comfortable, so I think it's just a scapegoat, you know,
Right.
like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
you
just
just
what I
want to
think.
group us all under one term.
Yeah,
you know,
and there's
these figures
levels
that
to social
SJW.
justice.
I also
Yeah,
think
yeah.
too that most of the quote unquote SJWs are just like the keyboard.
Yeah.
SJWs
Yeah,
are just like like do this,
Keyboard,
but then,
yeah,
like
yeah.
you're not really you're not in the community. So
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that
I mean,
should
there's
be-
also
Yeah, there's different
within
people
that too.
within
I
that.
mean, you got leftists, you got
Right.
liberal folks, like
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a spectrum there, right?
right, we're not gonna touch that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Well,
like
thank you.
another course or something. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
on the show.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
having
Thanks
us.
so
No
much.
problem.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
Right Steady podcast show.
Yes.
All right.